Hi, everyone. Jane Monreal here with you on a Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning in the Charlotte area. You are watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We appreciate you downloading the app to your Roku or Fire TV or Apple TV. We have a number of things in store this morning. We are going to await a live press conference for the suspect arrested in the Hickory House, the mass shooting over the weekend, and he will have his first court appearance as well. Our Richard Devane is in Catawba County awaiting that this morning, so we'll check in with that live. It's busy in Washington as well, so we'll check in with some of the nation's hearings. The GOPs have a presser, the Dems have a presser. So we'll continue with all of that. In the meantime, let's take you here local and check things out with our weather. Let's take a look first outside. It is kind of cloudy out there and gray, but not raining yet. And just stepping out, it is sticky.
Yep. It's returned.
Yes. Let's turn it. Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy is here. What is happening, Chris?
I thought we were doing trivia right now, so I'm ill-prepared.
We've got trivia. Is this trivia for hurricanes?
Yes, because
Okay.
I was
Oh my gosh, no, don't apologize.
No, it's all
sorry,
good.
because also you're talking about the forecast. It's like I could tell you about it, but I
No.
have nothing prepared for that except for trivia questions.
No.
So-
Because I wanted to talk about the hurricane
Okay,
special
so
as
we'll get it out of the way. We have a tropical disturbance. It'll feel sticky. Clouds increase through today, and then we are anticipating rain on and off through tomorrow morning, through the afternoon, and then it's just kind of feeling like summer. That stickiness near 90 degrees, and we can wrap that up with a bow. But I really want to focus in on our hurricane special because that's what's going to be coming up at 8 o'clock today.
Okay, it is at 8 o'clock tonight.
Yep.
The Weather Impact team, including our Chris Mulcahy, doing this special. Going to walk you through all the predictions for the year. Going to take a look back at the devastation because, as Chris says, it's important to look at history and then explain a lot of this science and get you prepared. Hurricane season started Sunday, June 1st. It's going to take us through July, well into October. And all of the things. So tonight at 8 o'clock is when you want to watch here on WCNC Plus. We're going to bring that to you as well on WCNC Charlotte. And so he is testing our knowledge.
Yep.
Carlene and I are familiar with the canes.
Okay.
Yes.
We have experienced a number of them. So we should know Carlene, more or less.
We should.
We should.
But unless Chris throws us, a trick question, a little curveball, if you will.
They do by the back end. There are some harder ones.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Including one that I don't even know the answer to this one. I looked it up today, so that one might not be fair. So we'll get to this. Okay. So let's start off. This is a little bit more of a basic question. Question 1: the Atlantic hurricane season is June 1st till November 30th. It can start before then, and it can end after that. But when is the peak date? Is it August 31st, September 4th, September 10th, or September 16th?
I know it's a September date.
The biggies in recent years I can think of, like Helene was September, Matthew
September.
was September.
September, October.
September,
Yeah.
October.
I'm good. Yeah, I was good. The 10th
Hugo
and the
was
16th are too
September.
close to each other. It's not Labor Day-ish, September 4th. So I'm going to go towards the end of September, and that.
What about
latest
you,
date give
Carlene?
me is the
I'll be
16th.
different. I'll do C for Carlene.
Ooh, that was a good choice. C is correct.
Oh, very good, Carlene.
All right, so it's an exact date, September 10th, where it's actually from August 1st to November 30th as a side fact. That's where we have 87% of all of our hurricanes. So it really just shows how backloaded the season is. Then once you get into August, it's usually more favorable water temperatures. There's less wind shear depending, and you don't have as much of the Saharan dust that's kind of enabling and preventing this current storm from really forming. All right, so
right,
Carlene,
very good.
1 point.
Good
Not
for
that this is
you.
a competition, but we always love that. Okay. Ocean temperatures are a big factor about if a storm is going to develop or not, or if it's going to intensify. Ocean temperatures need to be at least what for tropical cyclones to form? Is it 75, 76, 78, or 80 degrees? And that's a depth of 150 feet down for our ocean temperatures.
I mean, it has to be definitely warm.
It's got to be toasty.
Toasty, yep, that is correct.
Because it's usually in the mid 80s when I see all
Okay.
the developing the I-vest storms out there when you guys are.
Carlene, are you going to back her up? Or are you going to go?
Oh,
Gonna be different again.
I'll be different. I'll do B for brag.
Okay.
It was D for delightful answer. Good job. Okay, 1-1.
All right, 1-1.
Yeah, it's 80 degrees. Now, in the other environments, if it's cooler than that, they usually will start to de-intensify. They'll start to get a little bit weaker, but 80 is the ideal range. All right, very good. Okay, so here is one that's kind of open up to kind of pick and choose. Maybe you can get this right multiple times. But Katrina was the costliest hurricane in U.S. history. Helene actually ranked as the 7th costliest. Can you name another hurricane that made the top 10 list for costliest hurricanes in U.S. history? You just have to name one for a point.
Is inflation, is it like
Yeah, all
factor?
these are factored in the 2024 numbers, no 2025, because with recent budget cuts they stopped doing
So
it.
name a hurricane in 24.
So no, name a hurricane anywhere dating back to 1950 that is
Andrew.
the costliest.
I'll say Hugo.
Okay, let's see. Going on to the top 10 list, Andrew is the 9th costliest, but Hugo actually did not make the list. And the main reason why, Carlene, it was a good answer, but if Hugo had hit, say, in the year 2000, it probably would have done a lot more damage just because there weren't as many people living there where it actually was back in 1989. Andrew, 1992, would probably be close to Katrina if we had the population that they have closer to Dade County
But it was
back in
Miami.
then. Yeah, but other ones, if you said Harvey, Ian, Maria, Superstorm
Ian,
Sandy,
yeah.
Ida, Irma, Andrew, as you did Jane, or Ike, you got credit for that question. All right, very good, very good.
There are a lot of eyes in there.
I left that as a trivia question out, but one
Sorry?
interesting.
Okay.
No, I was gonna put it. I was like, no, I think I did ask you this before, but I is the most retired letter of the entire hurricane alphabet because they typically form around September 10th, the peak conditions.
Okay, very good.
Okay, moving on. Cool. All right. There are 21 names on the hurricane list, but there's 26 letters in the alphabet. What letters are not used every year in the hurricane alphabet? So, what letters are not used in our alphabet, maybe because there's not enough names for them?
I'm going to say X.
I was gonna say Q.
Okay, that's two of the 5.
I can't think of any with
Z.
Z, yep, that's 3. You have 2 more letters. I'll give you a hint. One is literally directly in between 2 of the letters that you said.
Oh, Y?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
Okay, so you have Q, X, Y, Z, and there's one more letter. Let's see if you can think about it. One more letter.
That's like I'm going through the alphabet right now. What's a weird letter for
G. U.
That is correct. Good job.
Yeah.
All right, both of you get a
It's all
point
towards
working
the end.
together. Q, U, X, Y, and Z. There's just not enough names. Of course, you can think of names, but besides like Uma,
right.
That's it.
Quinton, Quincy, yeah, you're gonna run out of it. There's Yvette, but after a while, there's not going to be enough, especially because they alternate male and female names. All right, very good, very good. Okay, now this one's a little bit trickier. What was the last hurricane to make landfall in North Carolina? So 2 key words here:
Carly got
landfall in North Carolina. Was it Florence, Ian, Isaias, or Dorian? And I'll give you the years. Florence was 2018, Ian was 2022, Isaias was 2020, and Dorian was 2019.
I think it's either.
And one of these did not make landfall in North Carolina to make it extra tricky.
Isaias was when?
2020.
I want to say
You want to say B?
it's A or B.
All right.
We want to go B together. Want to go B?
B together.
Was it?
Isaias!
Oh, dude.
This was the
I
trick
was gonna
question
do
because
that.
Ian made landfall in South Carolina, not
That
North
was-
Carolina. So that I was trying to kind of say that.
Yep.
Isaias made direct landfall on the Outer Banks as it skirted by, and then Ian still did affect us, but not directly landfall. Yeah, so for landfall, the definition is where like half of its ice center is going to cross over that state. So, like for instance, Helene, even though it affected us, didn't actually make landfall here. It made landfall in Florida. Okay.
Right.
All
Very
right.
good.
So these are 2 of the hardest ones, so just letting you know. So hurricanes were first named in 1950. Before that, they were just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What was the first name? And these names continued to change, but was it Alpha, Abel, Alice, or Anson?
I'm going to go Abel.
I'm gonna say Alice.
Okay. I want to give Carlene a half point, but then full point for Jane. It was Abel in 1950 because you could take this two ways because Alice was technically the first real
Female.
name, the first name. Abel, the reason why it was used is because it's Abel, Baker, Charlie, Dog, the way that they had in the military alphabet. So that's why that came from. The other versions are Alpha, then you can go on, so on.
Bravo,
But Abel,
Charlie.
but Alice in 1953, they started using all female names. And then after a while, I was like, wait, why are females being named for all of these destructive monsters? So it was the late 70s, 1978 to 1979, that they
Started
started
doing boy
alternating male and female names.
Men can be
love.
destructive too.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
very, very much so. Andrew, Hugo, not
Yes.
nice names whatsoever. Okay. 42 hurricanes have reached Category 5 strength. How many do you think have made landfall as a Category 5? And if you're within a certain number, I'll give you
Is the
credit.
Price is Right rules?
And
No Price is Right rules.
don't have to go over. And is this, we're talking for the United States?
For the United States,
Okay,
yeah.
no,
As 42 that have
Central
reached
America.
Category 5 in the Atlantic, but only this number has made landfall as a Category 5. For example, Katrina was a Category 5, but made landfall as a Category 3.
I think it's less than 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say a handful for sure.
Okay, it is less than 5. So for the point, whoever guesses closest, less than 5.
I'll say 4.
2.
Carly gets the point. It is 4. The Labor Day storm of 1935 made landfall
Michael,
around
I
Key
forgot
West.
Michael.
There was Camille that was devastating around Mississippi. We have Andrew that we already named. And then Michael, interesting enough, was actually, and Andrew, I think this happened too, there was technically a strong 4, but they upgraded it to a 5. So Michael at one point was like 155. They moved up to the 157, 160. So, all right, very good.
Wow.
I haven't been keeping track of the scores, but you guys are both doing great, all in all.
Yeah, that's
We
pretty
don't
much.
keep score
that,
here.
yeah.
Okay.
Where's Hera?
What
Yeah,
year
we're all
had
winners.
the most named storms on record? Was it 1933, 1992, 2005, or 2020?
I'm going to say 2020.
I think so too.
You are both correct. Very good. Yes.
I remember we had to go into double A's.
That's right.
or
We had to go. It was a lot. It was
Right?
a hefty year.
Yeah, no, it was an awful year just because all of a sudden you're dealing with obviously what was happening with the pandemic, and then all of a sudden you had 30 names. Hurricanes and tropical storms, and that was epic because it beat 2005, which obviously is most known for Katrina. That I also had the most Category 5s on record, and those are the only 2 years, 2020 and 2005, that we went on to the Greek auxiliary alphabet.
right. Yeah,
so pretty much they ran out of names, so they have to be able to move on to that. And they actually, since 2020, we now have a backup name list. So instead of going to Alpha, Beta, Gamma, there's a new list, which will be weird. I'm not looking forward to that because that means all of a sudden
Seriously.
it'll go W to A again. So,
Right.
so that'll be a whole different beast. Well,
Yeah.
that concludes our trivia. Great job, y'all. Give yourself a round of applause. That was
Very
awesome.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, 2020 was a banner year for all the wrong
Oh
reasons.
man, I know.
All right.
And we're hoping that it's not going to be anything like that for 2025. Now the good news is we aren't in a La Nina year, which is usually more favorable. That's where you're going to have better conditions, less wind shear. But there's still some similarities that we're stacking up. We kind of talked about this before. It only takes just one, but we have a very similar start to what 2017 had. And 2017 was a very quiet year until names like Harvey, Maria, and Irma, which by the way were all on that top 10 list, formed. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen. It's just that that's the most recent comparison I'm seeing as far as our water temperatures and our atmospheric conditions with La Nina to La Nada. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. The last time that we didn't have a landfalling hurricane or tropical storm was 2015. So it's been a while here in the United States. So I would love an off year. We don't need this.
Right. All right. So, more reason why you need to tune in tonight to the Hurricane IQ, the Weather Impact Special. You guys have been working hard on it. Thank you so much for all of the good stuff you guys do. Keep us safe and prepared tonight at 8 o'clock. Tell your friends, even
Tell
if
your
they don't live in the
family.
Carolinas.
Yeah.
because, hurricanes
We
affect
could all learn a little.
all of us. Friends of friends, friends of family.
Right.
And you won't have any trivia on there tonight, right?
No, I don't think we did the trivia this year. Truly, I did my part and I haven't fully seen it, but that's why I kind of wanted to prep you with this trivia in case we didn't not squeeze that in, because in years past we have had it. Also, since I disappointed you guys because I was ill prepared, I have your 7-day forecast that's about to pop up here.
Let's bring it.
Hold on, this is mad at me. Of
Okay,
course.
it's okay.
Wait, hold on.
All right.
It's all right.
Right now,
fine.
it
Let's
just
look
has a beautiful white box. Hold on. We're almost there.
That's okay. We've got a live
Hey,
shot
but
right now of
by
Uptown.
the way, I'm proud of y'all. You did really well on that
thank
trivia.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, gosh, I was hoping we'd do
That's what
okay.
I was like, we've been through a lot of hurricanes.
Well, because think
so-
about it. There's only one question that at least one of you didn't get it correct.
Right.
So that was awesome. That was a really hard one as well. Okay, so here's our Roofing 70 forecast. I do want to make a couple of key points here because that's the main point why I'm here. Today, clouds increase. It becomes overcast by the end of the day. This is the type of day, if you look out the window, it's okay. By the end of the day, you're going to lose motivation. I'm not. Are you two, like, if it's sunny out, you're like, okay, let's do
Yeah,
this. But if it's
totally.
cloudy, I was like, can I take a nap and binge watch?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's the way it's going to look heading into the evening. Tomorrow, it's going to look like that most of the day. By the end of the day, I think we get rid of the rain. If you live in Richmond County, and I keep on saying this specifically because that's the farthest eastern WCNC county, you're going to see up to about 2 inches of rain. The rest of us, the rain totals really come down, especially close to the I-77 corridor, but we're still going to have a chance for scattered rain through the morning, heading in the afternoon. Then Friday, 89. 90 degrees on Saturday, and Saturday I'm actually watching pretty closely because we do have a outside chance of a severe thunderstorm. So that's our best chance, I think, for severe storms this week by the end of the day. So if you have any Saturday plans,
Do it in the
plan
morning.
it earlier. Yeah, you got it, Jane. You know how this works. And then outside of that, you know the drill. It's hot. It's humid with a chance for a pop-up shower or thunderstorm by the end of the day.
So if we're barking in the park tonight,
Oh, I think at most you have some sprinkles with maybe a barely light rain shower. So
Great.
low chance of a wet dog smell.
yeah, that's what I care about.
Which, by the way,
Fine, Carolina, bark in the park.
Turkey
And
is on our Bark in the Park forecast graphic. So Turkey was on our air today. But that's
My dog's a
Carlene's dog, by the way.
Yes.
Yep. Adorable dog.
Thank
Adorable.
you.
All right, Chris Mulcahy once again coming into the Live Impact studio here with your 7-day forecast, everything you need to know about the hurricane special. We appreciate you as usual.
Appreciate you.
All right, peace out.
Peace out.
All right, we bring it back out here now. That was good stuff. We start you out here on a Wednesday, on a hump day at 9:18. We are just moving right along. By the way, we're also on the lookout for a verdict in the Harvey Weinstein trial. The jury now has the case, so they're going to go back and deliberate. If that comes down the pipe, we're going to bring that to you. Karen Reed retrial is underway. That is happening out of Dedham, Massachusetts. The judge sent the jury home early yesterday afternoon. Things yesterday got pretty explosive with the defense talking to a dog bite expert and questioning her memory and her expertise, and got quite hot there in the courtroom. So let's go ahead. We'll just take a peek in here right now as they are bringing in. Did they bring in the jury yet? Well, it looks like they're just taking some housekeeping rules out there. Okay, so in the meantime, how about North Carolina? The North Carolina Senate, I believe, is meeting right now. This is the Agriculture, Energy, and Environment Group.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and listen here while we wait for the Karen Reed retrial to come out of, not recess, but bringing the jurors in.
We have I hope I get the name right, Bernard Allen Fund, which helps pay for additional private well tests around the state when we determine that is needed.
Follow up. One of the largest I guess it's the largest landfill in the state is in mine and Senator Jackson's area in Sampson County, and well, I represent part of Sampson, and of course he has the majority of Sampson County, but you know, I've talked to them about the situation there, and of course, you know, I know everybody monitors it and everything. And is there some long-term plan? I personally think every county needs to try to handle their own waste as much as they can, but we're shipping all of ours to Sampson County, and a bunch of other counties are too. Kind of tell me your long-term thoughts about waste, landfills, because that's going to continue to be a big problem.
Sure. That landfill is the largest one in the state. We know that it has PFAS contamination leaching out, and we are in, and have been for some time, in conversations with GFL, which is the owner and operator of the landfill, to address PFAS. I really can't say more than that at this point, but they've been really promising conversations with that company, and we're hopeful that something good will come out of that.
Follow up?
Just in continuing that thought, because I think that's something that we need to all try to get ahead of, because there's going to have to be more landfills, or we're going to have to find other alternatives, whether it's clean incinerators and I don't know what you all are looking at. I'd love to have that discussion. Another big concern, and this is my last question, is over the last 30 or 40 years, we have built convenience stores on about every prominent corner in this state, and a lot of them are aging out. And you know, I know we went through the whole Superfund thing. We went through. I've owned properties and bought properties and had to remediate properties and work with your folks on cleaning up properties and things, but I think we're getting ready to go into a period where it's going to get worse. And so kind of tell me your thoughts about that and what you all are doing.
Sure. Well, we have an underground storage tank program which works with owners of those convenience stores, but other gas stations as well, or owners of underground tanks. And all of those are permitted. And when there is a problem, we're able to respond to it pretty quickly. I think you're right that, you know, the more of these, over time, more and more of these will start to degrade, no matter how well they were built. I mean, you know, time and just takes a toll on stuff. What is promising, though, is that some of these sites, previously contaminated sites, let's say a gas station goes out of business, have been cleaned up either through Superfund or often through our Brownfields program to provide a little bit of money to match local money to clean up that site. You know, a lot of these are lightly contaminated. They're not, you know, huge hazardous waste Superfund sites. And we've been able to work with local communities to return a lot of those contaminated properties to productive use. And in fact, I believe later this month, I will be at the celebration of the 750th Brownfield cleanup, which has been turned into productive community use. So we're looking at ways to prevent leaks from those places, but then when there is contamination and an opportunity to clean it up and return it to productive community use, we're as helpful as we can possibly be.
Okay. Senator Settle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Wilson, thank you for coming.
Sure.
Sitting there today. I know it's kind of tough. As Senator Chaudhry said, you sure you want to do this? But anyway, I want to talk to you about some accomplishments and future priorities. And what are 3 accomplishments that you're the most proud of as being the EQ Secretary? And how do they shape your future goals? In other words, how do you learn from the past to help you here in the future?
So, accomplishments from these past 5 months, not previous stuff. Fair enough. I still show up at work every day, so that's good. 1? No, sorry. Part of it is, well, I'll try and address 3. 1 is I have a strong appreciation for how excellent our staff are. I've been working with all sorts of people in our headquarters, but also I've been to most of our regional offices, plus in Morehead City, our marine fisheries and coastal management staff, where they are headquartered. I have some more to get to, but what I find at each of these places is that we have really dedicated staff who know what they're doing. They love what they do, even though it's hard sometimes, because a lot of them are, evaluating permits or doing inspections, which does not always make them popular. But yet they stick to it. They know what they're doing. They're committed. They love their job. They feel like their coworkers are family. Their only complaint really is they don't get paid enough money. But the lesson I take from that is that we have a really talented staff who want to do the right thing, and they have the ability to do it, so I want to support them any way I can. I think the second thing is the realization, and I sort of knew this going in, because it's similar to the situation I had at EPA in the late 90s, that there are a lot of folks with different perspectives who care about what our department does. And I want to make sure that we are reaching out to them early on, whether that's businesses or agriculture groups or local communities, companies coming to this state to create jobs and build a facility. It's just really important for us to have clear, open, early lines of communication so that we can identify any issues and fix them before they become big issues. The other accomplishment, I don't know. It's early yet. It's been 5 months, but I feel like one of the most important things I can do is be a face for the outside world so that people can feel like they ought to come talk to us and we're a welcoming place where we want to hear what they have to say, and to make sure our roughly 1,900 staff feel valued.
Follow up? You good? Questions? Senator Jarvis. Well, wait a minute. Senator Mayfield was raising her hand. Okay. All right. Always a lady. Okay. Senator Mayfield. I'd rather hear from her anyhow, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chivalry is not dead. Mr. Secretary, what is the number one thing that you need from us as a legislature to make your job better, easier, better support your people, better protect the environment?
You are watching live right now the Senate Agriculture, Energy, and Environment hearing there out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We are now going to go back to Dedham, Massachusetts. This trial has been getting a lot of airplay now, if you will, because it's been getting pretty hot after the prosecution rested in the Karen Reed retrial last week. Entering its 7th week, the defense taking up its case. Yesterday, it was very fiery in the courtroom. They asked for a mistrial at one point. They questioned one of the dog experts, dog bite experts, seeing if those injuries to the victim, John O'Keefe, were consistent with dog bites or perhaps a tail light, debris from the tail light of Karen Reed's car that allegedly may have hit O'Keefe. Quick reminder, Karen Reed is charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter in the murder of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, a Boston police officer, at a house party back in 2022. It resulted in a hung jury last year. This is the retrial. Let's take you out live now to a new witness taking the stand for the defense here on Live Impact News on WCNC+.
Brother, obviously.
Yes.
So your brother and Brian Albert's brother are both town selectmen together.
Correct.
How did you become familiar with Kevin Albert?
Through D&E Pizza and
And I'm sorry, you said through D&E Pizza?
Yes. And interactions with the DPW doing details and stuff.
Okay. First, with regard to D&E Pizza, you said there were interactions with Kevin Albert relating to that pizza shop. What type of interactions?
He would come in. I'd be, friendly. I'd say hello, or there'd be deliveries to the Albert's residents, and I would, make those deliveries.
All right. You mentioned the DPW. I didn't ask you what you did for work, sir. What do you do?
I work for the DPW. I work in the Highway Division.
And the DPW stands for Department of Public Works?
Yes.
For which town?
Town of Canton.
And what are your duties, or strike that? Around January and late January of 2022, what were your duties for the DPW?
I would plow.
And how long had you worked, or to this day, how long have you worked for the DPW?
20 years.
Now, as a DPW employee, how much contact do you have with the police department?
We have varying jobs that require police details.
So you're doing work, and there has to be a police officer there to oversee and direct traffic and things of that nature?
Correct.
How often have you worked in that capacity with Kevin Albert from the Canton Police Department?
About a dozen times.
And what was the nature of your relationship with Kevin Albert before January 29th of 2022?
Through D&E Pizza, I would. The Alberts usually had family functions on a weekend, and I would make deliveries.
Can these last few jurors hear the witness? I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay. Now, what was how did you become familiar with Brian Albert?
Again, through D&E Pizzas and deliveries.
Deliveries where?
To his residence.
Do you know what his residence is or what the address is?
I do.
What is it?
34 Fairview Drive.
What was your understanding of what Brian Albert did for a living?
My understanding, he was a police officer for the city of Boston.
Now, you say that you made deliveries to 34 Fairview Road. How often, and was there a particular day of the week that you delivered more than others?
It's usually once a week, and it was usually on Sundays.
And that was to 34 Fairview Road?
Correct.
As of January of 2022, how many decades had the Albert family lived at that address, if you know?
As far as I couldn't give you a year, but I know as long as I've been in Canton, they've lived at that residence.
All right. Now, directing your attention to January 28th and 29th of 2022, were you on duty as a snowplow driver that night and early morning?
Yes.
When did you learn that you would be on duty?
Early January 28th, we were notified that we had a 2:30 start time.
And that would be 2:30 a.m.?
A.m.
On January 29th?
Yes.
How did you learn that you would be on duty?
Our supervisors for the DPW would notify us.
Who was your supervisor?
William Walsh.
And what instructions were you given in terms of when you were to report?
We were to report at 2:30 in the morning and prepare our trucks for plowing.
What time did you actually get to the DPW that morning?
I got there about 2:15.
And when you say you got there, where did you go?
160 Bolivar Street.
And is that Bolivar?
Yes.
What is 160 Bolivar Street?
It is the DPW garage.
And when you go there, is there a requirement that you punch in?
Yes.
Did you punch in those early morning hours?
Yes.
Who was there when you got there?
Other DPW employees and William Walsh.
William Walsh being your supervisor?
Yes.
Were you assigned a specific route those early morning hours?
Yes.
What route was that?
Route 11.
What streets does Route 11 encompass?
Route 11 encompasses Cedar Crest from Dedham Street to the end. It encompasses everything from Kings Road to Chapman Street.
And streets in between as well?
Yes.
And what street is in between Cedar Crest and Chapman?
There would be Spring Lane and Fairview.
What truck or snowplow were you assigned in those early morning hours?
I was assigned Truck 30.
And does that have a particular nickname?
Yes, it's considered a Franken truck.
You said Franken truck.
Yes.
Like Frankenstein.
Yes.
Why was it nicknamed Franken truck?
It was a very uncomfortable truck, and it had a lot of mismatch of parts to make it more convenient for the drivers.
I'd like to show you some photos, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Loughran, I've placed 4 photographs in front of you. If you could just familiarize yourself with them and look up at me when you're done. Do you recognize what is depicted in those photos?
Yes, I do.
And did you take those photos
I did.
at my request?
Yes.
What do those photos depict?
They depict the inside of Truck 30 or Franken truck.
And is there one that actually depicts the outside from the front as well?
Yes.
Do those photos fairly and accurately depict Frankentruck as it looked on or about January 29th of 2022?
Yes.
I would offer those, Your Honor.
I have no objection to any of the photos.
All right, thank you.
Perhaps they could be marked with the next exhibit number A through D.
Yes. And once that's done, you can feel free to publish it.
Thank you very much.
Exhibits 211A through 211D.
Thank you. And with the court's permission, Mr. Wolk, if you would publish them one at a time in the order we discussed. I imagine that is 211A, Madam Court Reporter?
Ms. Giannetti, why don't you take the photos so you'll know what
Oh,
they are?
great idea. Okay, could you explain what 211A depicts for this jury?
That is the front of Truck 30, Franken truck, and it's depicting the 2 mirrors on the right and left side of the fenders.
Okay. What about the next one, please, Mr. Wolf? Can you identify, this is 211B, sir.
Yes, that's the inside of the Franken truck looking out the windshield.
As if you were seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
Next photo, please. This is 211C. What does this depict?
This is depicting on the range that I would see seated in the front seat, looking out the windshield, and depicting how much I will be able to see.
Okay, and this would be more toward the left side in front of you as you're seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
All right, next photo, please. This is 211D. Could you explain this to the jury?
Again, I'm sitting in the front seat of the Franken truck, and I'm taking a picture out the right side of the windshield, again, depicting on how much I can see out it.
Thank you. Okay, we can take those down and put the lights on. Okay, so you previously testified that you got to the garage about 2:15 a.m. on January 29th. Could you explain to the jury, what do you do when you get there at 2:15 a.m.?
So at 2:15, we do a simple circle check to make sure that there are no defects with the truck. We go ahead and we make sure it has plenty of diesel, and then I put, any supplies that I may have for the night, planning on an overnight shift, and then I get in the truck and I proceed to my route.
And what type of supplies are you talking about, sir?
Any types of drinks, food, anything, snacks.
Preparing for a long night?
Yes.
The circle check, does that mean what it sounds like, where you sort of take a circle around the vehicle?
Yes, we're trying to make sure that the truck is safe, that there is no defects that would hinder the job ahead of it of being able to plow.
And when you did the circle check in those early morning hours, was there anything unusual that you found?
None.
Were you comfortable driving the snowplow that night?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you make sure it's filled with diesel fuel so you're good for the night.
Correct.
Now, what lighting is there on the truck facing outward?
I have 4 lights. I have the initial headlights, and then I have 2 plow lights that are on either side of the fenders. And then I have marking lights, and then I have work lights in the back for the sander.
Okay. If you recall the one photo that showed the truck from the outside, were the 2 plow lights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Were the headlights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Could we display that one more time, Your Honor, to have him point that out? Is there a pointer there, sir?
No, there is not.
Okay. Could you describe on 211A where those plow lights are?
Plow lights are just above the grill on the right side and left side.
Okay. And would it be fair to say the plow lights appear to be a clear lens and then an orange lens on either side?
Yes.
And the headlights, sir, where are those located?
They are to the right and left of the grill, and they're underneath.
Okay. And those are located just to the right of the grill in terms of as we're looking at 211A?
Yes.
Okay. We can take that down and put the lights back on? Now, do you recall whether or not... Oh, strike that. You also mentioned marking lights. Where are those?
Marking lights are on the top of my truck, along with the beacon light on top of the truck.
And what is a beacon light?
Beacon light is exactly what it looks like. It's a light that just illuminates and it goes around in circles.
And the marking lights, what do they do?
They're similar to driving without your headlights. They're just there to mark the truck so that it's more visible for residents who may be driving and not paying attention.
And where does the lighting face those marking lights?
Front.
Okay, so in terms of the light that strictly goes toward the front, you have marking lights, plow lights, and headlights, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether, when you did your circle check, you checked out whether those lights were all working?
Correct.
And were they working?
Yes.
When all of those lights are on, how bright is it in front of your truck?
Extremely bright, almost if I had a spotlight.
And that's facing straight out?
Correct.
What about facing diagonally out front?
Again, as far as the lights will illuminate.
And then on either side, directly out to the side, how far can you see?
About 5-6 feet.
Okay. So you see more when you're looking straight out and then diagonally out, correct?
Correct.
You can see farther?
Correct.
Now, how about in terms of you being situated in the vehicle? How high up is the driver's seat?
Driver's seat is an air ride seat, so it can adjust accordingly.
What is an air ride seat?
It is adjusted by air, and it can go up or down depending on the driver's.
And how long did it take you to do the circle check, to put your snacks in the car and water, and to make sure the car or the truck is filled with diesel fuel?
About 5 minutes.
All right, so if you get there at 2:15, is it fair to say that you're ready to go on the road somewhere around 2:20 or 2:25 a.m.?
Correct.
And when you did start to go out on the road at around that time, how was the seat adjusted?
I adjusted the seat up so that my knees would hit the bottom of the steering wheel.
How big is that steering wheel on the truck?
It's fairly large. It's larger than a regular passenger vehicle. It's very large.
As of January 29th of 2022, were there any obstructions on any part of the windshield that would prevent you from having a clear view in any direction through the windshield?
No.
Once you got into that truck in those early morning hours, how far could you see in front of your truck?
As far as my eyes would let me see.
And how far could you see diagonally?
Diagonally, probably, again, as far as my eyes would let me see.
All right. Now, you get on the road, when you plow, is there a particular method that you use?
Yes.
Describe that.
I start in the middle of the road and work to the right, angling the plow to the right.
Are you familiar with the term ring row right?
Yes.
Could you explain that to the jury, please?
Sure. Ring row to the right is the amount of snow that's coming off the plow, creating a row. We angle everything to the right so that it does not impede on traffic on the left.
Right. So if you had gone in the other direction, you'd be putting snow right in the opposite lane of travel, right?
Correct.
So you always go to the right.
Correct.
What part of the road, once you hit the roads, do you plow first? What part of the road?
I start at the yellow line and I work to the curb line.
Why do you plow the middle of the road first?
Again, I want to ring road to the right, and I want to be able to give a bigger swath of space for first responders.
And generally, after going up a street or a road that you plow, when do you come back down the same street?
Immediately after I'm done.
Now, you mentioned Route 11, your route that night. You mentioned that it takes you to Cedar Crest.
Correct.
Once you leave the DPW garage to go on your route, Route 11, how long does it take you to get to any part of Cedar Crest?
About 10 minutes.
May we display actually, it's Exhibit 49. Do we have access to Exhibit 49?
What is it?
It's just a map.
Okay.
And if we can't put our hands on it quickly, I can just display it on the screen.
Is it in evidence?
It is.
You can put
Okay,
it on the
thank you,
screen.
Ron. If you put up Exhibit 49 and maybe zoom in so we just see, well, I think it is as zoomed in as it's going to go. Is that true, Mr. Wilk, to get the... Okay. Maybe zoom in on the top part of the map, if you would. Perfect. All right. So are you able to see that map from where you are?
Yes, I can.
And by the way, do you wear corrective lenses?
Yes, I do.
What do you wear?
I wear glasses, and when it's inclement weather, I wear contacts.
So on the night in question, when you went out on your route that night, were you wearing glasses or contacts?
Contacts.
What are you wearing today?
Contacts.
You've testified in a prior proceeding regarding this matter last year, correct?
Yes.
What did you show up with that day?
Glasses.
And what's your difference? What is the difference in your ability to see the screen with your glasses or your contacts?
My contacts makes things a little bit more brighter, allowing my eyes to see better.
You have
with
more
the
difficulty
contacts.
seeing distances with your glasses?
Correct.
All right. Any problem seeing that screen here today?
None.
All right. What does that depict?
That depicts my route: Cedar Crest, Dew Lane, Spring Lane, and I'm not able to read the one underneath Spring Lane. Just
certainly, it's a portion of your route, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, you see where it says Cedar Crest, right?
Yes.
And you see the red dot there?
Yes.
Does that red dot refresh your memory or orient you, I should say, as to what road that red dot is on?
Yes.
And what road is that?
That would be Fairview.
All right. Now, when you hit Cedar Crest Road, are you in that area of Cedar Crest, or are you in a different area of Cedar Crest when you first come upon Cedar Crest Road?
When I first come on, I'm coming in at the beginning of Cedar Crest, which is at Dedham Street in Cedar Crest.
Okay. And how long a road is Cedar Crest before you get to the area of Exhibit 49?
I would say that's about a mile and a half.
And how long does it take you to plow Cedar Crest before you get to this area on January 29th of 2022?
About 10 minutes.
All right. How much of that mile and a half or so stretch of road did you plow when you first encountered it?
I plowed the entire street.
If we could zoom out, please. All right? And when you're driving on Cedar Crest Road, are you driving toward that red, Fairview Road that you've identified?
Yep.
Coming in from the right portion of the map or the left portion of the map?
I'm coming from the right side of the map.
All right. And so you start about 1.5 miles down the road to the right, which is off this map, correct?
Correct.
And you say it takes you about 10 minutes to get to the area of Fairview?
Yes.
So would Fairview be on your right or your left when you first encounter it?
On my left.
And when you hit Fairview Road that first time, what do you do?
I go all the way to the very end of Cedar Crest, turn around in the cul-de-sac, and then head back up towards Fairview.
Okay, so you're passing Fairview on your left,
Yes.
plowing further, and then turning around and plowing back?
Yes.
And when you came back to the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview, what did you do?
I take a right.
And how familiar were you with 34 Fairview Road on that day?
Very, very familiar.
Having delivered pizzas there for years?
And then having grown up in that neighborhood.
Were you friendly with the Alberts growing up?
Mostly with Chris, but I was cordial with the boys.
All right. And when you entered Fairview Road from Cedar Crest for the first time on your route, would 34 Fairview be on your right or your left?
On my right.
And can you give the jury your best estimate of when or what time was it when you first encountered 34 Fairview Road on January 29th of 2022?
About 2:40, 2:45.
That would be a.m.?
A.m.
And when you were passing 34 Fairview Road or encountering it at that point, what did you know about who lived there?
I knew the Alberts lived there, and I knew that Brian Albert was a police officer, first responders.
Now, aside from the lighting on your truck, were you aware of whether there were any street lights in the area of 34 Fairview?
Yes.
Could you describe those?
Sure. There's one before you get to 34 Fairview driveway, and there's one after Fairview's driveway.
Do you have a memory as to whether or not those street lights were working on January 29th of 2022?
I do not have a memory of that.
All right. But in any case, how much of the lighting of your Franken truck was illuminated at that time?
All my lights were working.
So you're now driving up Fairview Road, and 34 Fairview's on your right. Taking into account the lighting conditions that existed, especially on your truck, how much of the front lawn of 34 Fairview could you see?
I could see all the way to the front door.
What obstructions were there at the time when you first passed the Alberts residence?
None.
Were you familiar with the area of the flagpole on the left side of the property?
Yes.
Now, when you are plowing, sir, where is your attention focused?
My attention's focused out the front window, to the right and to the left.
Why?
I am looking for pedestrians. I'm looking for residents that may be backing out, not aware that I'm there, and God forbid, animals.
How much of the time that you're plowing are you scanning the road?
All the time.
Now, as you're passing 34 Fairview, could you see the area of the flagpole at 2:45 in the morning, sir?
Yes.
What was on the ground on the Alberts lawn at that point in the area of the flagpole?
Nothing.
Did you see a 6'1", 216-pound man lying on that lawn?
No.
Now, after plowing Fairview with the Alberts residence to your right, what do you do?
I go to the very end, take a left on the Chapman Street, back down Chapman Street, and then take a left back onto Fairview.
And are you plowing the whole time?
Yes.
So you get to, in this diagram, Exhibit 49, we don't have to turn the lights off. I think we can see it. You're traveling in a down direction, correct?
Correct.
And you would hit Chapman Street. Is that fair to say that's at the bottom?
Correct.
You do some type of three-point turn and go back down Fairview?
Yes.
How long does it take you to get from 34 Fairview the first time to get to Chapman Street?
Maybe 5-10 minutes.
And then how long does it take you to get from Chapman Street back down so that you're now passing 34 Fairview again?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
And when you're coming back down, what side of the road is 34 Fairview?
On my left.
When you pass 34 Fairview at that time, are there any obstructions preventing you from seeing the front lawn?
None.
Was there any difference in the lighting on your truck when you were coming back down?
No.
Where is your attention focused when you're passing 34 Fairview on your left?
Again, out the front, right and left.
And how much of that front lawn are you able to see on 34 Fairview when you're coming back down from Chapman?
I can see everything. I can see right up to the front door.
What did you see on the front lawn of 34 Fairview on January 29th of 2022 when you're making the second pass by 34 Fairview in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
All right. Now, you've made an up and down pass, sir, correct?
Yes.
Once you pass 34 Fairview for that first up and down pass, where do you go?
I then go do Spring Lane, and I do that top and bottom.
And is there a point in time when you come back to the area of Fairview Road?
Yes.
That second time now that you're coming back, I'm counting the up and down pass as the first time.
Okay.
You with me?
Yep.
That second time now that you're coming back, about how long is it after the first time?
About 45 minutes.
So now it's about what time that you're coming for the second time to this area?
3:30.
And when you come back to the area of Fairview Road, this second time, are you on the Cedar Crest side, which is on the top of Exhibit 49, or the Chapman side, which is on the bottom?
All right, friends, it looks like that feed it just paused there, stalled out a little bit. We're going to refresh that feed. That
Much
is
snow there was
coming
on the
from the
ground.
source. So
I
not
ended up
blame
going all
us
the way
here
to the end
on Live
as if
Impact
the
News,
first time.
WCNC
All right. And
Plus.
you
We
did
are
the
coming
same
up on
turnaround
10
in
o'clock,
the
and you're
cul-de-sac?
watching
Correct.
witness
And now
there.
you're approaching the
Take the
intersection
stand.
of
He
Cedar Crest and
is
Fairview
a
again,
snowplow
correct?
driver
Yes.
and
What do you
coming
do?
up
I
on the
take the
house
right
as a
onto
witness
Fairview.
at the Karen Reed retrial. Let's go back to it
How
live
was
now.
the
That
weather at
picture
3:30
is
in
back
the
up here
morning
on Live
when you're
Impact.
now in that area of Fairview and Cedar Crest?
It's snowing fairly hard now.
Do you recall how much snow? Recall how much snow was on the ground at that point?
Maybe 2-3 inches.
And at about 3:30 in the morning, how far could you see in front of you? Again, straight and diagonally in front of you,
As far as my eyes would let me see.
as a result of the lighting on your truck.
Correct.
Now, you take the right onto Fairview. Describe for the jury what you see in the road at that point.
As I make my right onto Fairview, I notice that there's a vehicle on the right-hand side, roughly in the area of the flagpole, in front of 34 Fairview.
Okay. And did you make note of what type of vehicle that was?
Yes,
What type of vehicle was that?
a Ford Edge.
What direction was that vehicle parked when you saw it?
It was parked nose going up Fairview.
Toward Chapman?
Yes.
So you're coming up from behind it?
Correct.
Do you see the rear of that vehicle?
Yes.
And was it parked adjacent to the Albert property, or was it across the street from the Albert property?
Adjacent to the Albert family.
And how close to the area of the flagpole was that Ford Edge parked at 3:30 in the morning?
I can't give you an exact measurement, but looking at the front door, it was about 3 feet to the left of the front door in the area of the flagpole, so in between the front door and the flagpole.
Now, what caused you to remember that there was a Ford Edge parked at 3:30 outside the Albert's residence that night?
For as long as I can remember, they have never parked a vehicle in front of their house. They've always had enough ample parking in the driveway.
What policies or protocols of the DPW are in force when vehicles are parked on the street or the road during a snow emergency?
There is no parking allowed. We are supposed to notify our supervisor when there is a vehicle in the way. At that point, the supervisor will make attempt to call the resident or have the police show up at the resident. And then if they can't get the car removed, the car gets towed.
Sir, did you follow protocol that night?
I did not.
Why not?
Knowing the Albert family, knowing that there was a first responder, I gave them respect and opted not to follow procedures.
How did the presence of that Ford Edge parked on the side of the road affect your direction of travel?
I had to go around the vehicle.
How did you maneuver around it?
I had to maneuver to the left, go up, and then maneuver back right into my lane, and then continue up Fairview.
And at any point when you were maneuvering to the left and then angling back to the right, could you see part of the front lawn of the Alberts?
Yes.
Were you able to see any part of the area around the flagpole?
Yes, as I maneuvered back right.
And when you maneuvered back right and saw that area, what, if anything, did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
All right. So now you've passed 34 Fairview again. Where do you go?
I go back to the top of Chapman, and again I do a left and a right and head back down Fairview.
Another 3-point turn.
Correct.
So now you're doing your second up and down, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you then enter Fairview again, coming back down from Chapman. And how long does it take you to get back down to the area of 34 Fairview?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
Now, you are now approaching 34 Fairview, and it's on your right or your left this time.
Again, it's on my left.
What, if anything, did you see in the road at that point?
Again, I saw the Ford Edge in the road.
Now it's on your left side?
Yes.
Did it appear to be in the identical position as when you came up the street toward Chapman?
Yes.
How much of the area of the flagpole were you able to see this time as you're coming back down from Chapman?
I was able, it was obstructed, so I wasn't able to see as much as the first time, but I was still able to see the flagpole.
What did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole at now 3:35, 3:40 in the morning?
I saw nothing.
All right, so now you've done your second up and down pass, correct?
Correct.
Where do you go?
I go back out on the Cedar Crest and I continue to do the rest of my route.
Now, at this point in time, did you do more of your route or spend more time away than you did between the first and second time?
I did more of my route staying away from Fairview.
And about how long did it take you before you came back to the area of Fairview Road?
About 3 hours.
So what is your best estimate of this third time that you're now approaching Fairview Road?
About 6:15.
And that'd be a.m.?
A.m.
On January 29th?
Yes.
Now, this time when you approached Fairview Road, did you come from the Cedar Crest side or the Chapman side?
I came from Chapman Street side.
And when you turned, did you turn left or right from Chapman Street to get down to Fairview?
I turned right.
And once you turned right, did something unusual happen?
Yes, I noticed there were blue lights behind me, forcing me to pull over to the side of the road.
Did you recognize the vehicles that had, or vehicle? I didn't ask you if there was more than one, but did you recognize what type of vehicle or vehicles there were?
Yes, they were police vehicles.
Which vehicle was traveling more quickly, the police vehicle or Franken truck?
The police vehicles.
What were you doing with your snowplow after the police passed you?
I continued down Fairview.
Coming down Fairview, did you actually lose sight of the police cruiser that had passed
Yes, I did.
How many side streets are there when you're coming down Fairview from Chapman Street?
3.
What are they?
Wyndham, Old Ridge Hill, and then Carriage Lane.
Now, you're now coming down Fairview Road. What did you notice ultimately in front of you in the road?
I noticed the police cars had the road blocked off and preventing me from going to Cedar Crest.
And with regard to the lighting on those police... With regard to the lighting on those police vehicles as the road was blocked off, could you describe that for the jury?
Sure, they had all their blue lights on, and they were parked blocking the road, the entire road. I couldn't get through.
How well lit was it in the area where the police were?
Very well lit.
So you're now confronted with a blocked road. What do you do?
I turn around at Carriage Lane, and I continue to do that road, and then I exit Carriage Lane and go to the left.
All right, and going to the left would send you back toward Chapman Street, correct?
Correct.
And once you leave the area of Fairview Road, how long does it take you to come back down to Fairview Road to finish the plowing that you didn't do the first time?
As soon as the police were able to leave the area, I was able to finish that area.
Do you recall what time you finished your shift on January 29th?
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No worries. Do you remember if it was daylight out at that time?
It was daylight.
Okay. Now, sir, in the aftermath of that storm, when was the first time you were approached by anybody connected with this investigation on either side, if you recall?
About 2 weeks.
Who was it that approached you at that time?
His first name is Paul, and he described himself as a private investigator for the defense team.
Prior to hearing from the defense private investigator, had you ever heard from anybody from any police department whatsoever?
No.
Do you know who Michael Proctor is?
I do.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
And did Michael Proctor ever call you or contact you at all in those 2 weeks?
No.
Where did the defense investigator approach you, if you recall?
He approached me at my place of work, which was at the Canton Ice Rink, Metropolis Ice Rink.
And what were you doing at the ice rink?
I was operating the Zamboni.
Now, without telling us what you told him, did you speak to the defense investigator?
Yes, I did.
And at some point, did you do something with the defense investigator?
Yes, I met him for a second time at the Kennedy School, and then we both drove my route.
Skipping ahead to the next year, sir, 2023, were you approached by law enforcement officers who were not Canton Police or Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Without telling us what you told them, did you speak to them?
Yes.
Before speaking to them in 2023, had you ever heard from former Trooper Michael Proctor, or anybody from this investigation from the State Police or Canton Police?
No.
At some point, did you hear from the State Police?
Yes.
That was after you'd already talked to the defense and to these other law enforcement officers who were not State Police or Canton Police?
Yes.
And sir, how clear is your memory about what you saw or didn't see in the early morning hours of January 29th of 2022 in the area of 34 Fairview? The first up and down pass, the second up and down pass, and then the third time you came.
Very strong.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. This is the exhibit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have exhibits.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Have you and I met before?
No, sir.
This is our first time speaking?
Yes, sir.
Sir, you say that your memory from that night is very strong. Would it be fair to say that before today, you've talked about this case many times?
Yes.
You've interviewed with different law enforcement people as well as civilians and attorneys, haven't you?
Correct.
I have not been one of them.
No, you have not.
And is it fair to say that when you've recounted that night as far as times and what you saw, many times your memory has changed? Is that fair to say?
It has not.
You spoke to a private investigator on behalf of the defense shortly after that night?
Yes.
Was that the first time that you spoke to somebody about what you had seen or not seen?
Yes.
That is the first time?
Yes.
Inevitably, over time, you have given statements to at least 4 different people, correct?
Correct.
And you've testified in court under oath?
Correct.
During the pendency from that night until today, it's fair to say there are many times where you have been intimidated, isn't it?
No.
You've been threatened.
No.
You were aware, sir, that you were being threatened by an online blogger to expose you?
I was not.
You're saying as you sit here today, you have no awareness in the history of this case that you were being threatened by an online blogger?
I was not threatened by an online blogger.
Was the online blogger threatening or saying that he would expose you and tell personal things about you if you weren't helpful?
He was not threatening.
Let's remove the word threatening. Was the person communicating and making clear to you that if you didn't testify in a certain way, there would be some consequence to you?
Objection. Can we have a time frame, please?
Any time from when you first spoke to the private investigator until today, were there communications made to you by an online blogger that there would be consequence for you if you didn't testify in a way that was acceptable to them?
No.
You listened, of course, didn't you, to podcasts that were about you?
I did not.
People told you about them.
Yes, they did.
When friends told you about them, you knew who that person was that was making those claims, correct?
Correct.
You were well aware of the person had a very strong and large social media presence.
I didn't know how large or what his presence were, but yes, I knew he had a blog.
Well, you know now because you follow that blogger now, don't you?
I do follow him, yes.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
I did not.
And in following that blogger, you know full well the power that person has to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware that you were being pressured to testify a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences if you didn't. Isn't that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is not accurate.
So he can answer that.
You knew there was pressure for you to testify a certain way in this case, didn't you?
I did not know I was being required to testify a certain way. I was also at the time dealing with the loss of my wife. I was not paying any attention to any social media.
Sorry for your loss, but you are aware during the pendency of this case that there has been pressure on you to testify in a certain way. Isn't that fair to say?
No,
Sir, you received a call from that blogger, didn't you?
I did.
And during that call, did you know the person was recording you?
I did not.
You later learned that the person recorded you.
I did not.
Do you know that your conversations were spread throughout the community online?
I was.
Sir, some of those communications or inquiries were claims that you would be exposed for personal matters if you didn't testify a certain way, weren't they?
No.
Inevitably, you've met this person, haven't you?
I've seen him. I haven't met him.
Have you ever spent time with him?
No, I have not.
Still a follower of that blog.
I am.
When you follow the blog, do you read anything or do you watch it?
No, I don't do much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No.
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
No.
Haven't you ever been celebrated after you've testified in a way favorable for one side or the other?
Yes.
And so when you were being celebrated, that certainly took off any pressure that would be consequence, didn't it?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
When you were celebrated for testifying a certain way, did you find that to be encouraging?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
I did find it to be encouraging.
But
I did not want it. I don't think I deserved it. All I was doing was my job and telling the truth.
Did you enjoy the attention that you got?
I did not.
Did you pose in photographs with people who support one side or the other?
I did.
And when you were in those photographs, are you saying that you didn't enjoy the attention that you were receiving?
I did not. Again, I was trying to be polite and trying to avoid any confrontation that may come from something if I said no.
Well, did anybody from the district attorney's office ever suggest they would confront you or punish you if you didn't testify a certain way?
No.
How many friends contacted you about what was being said before you testified, the pressure? How many people told you about that?
I couldn't tell you. All my friends were telling me.
So you were hearing a lot of noise or information from your friend group and community about what was being said about you?
Yes.
And this was before you testified at the first trial, sir?
This was before.
Sir, you work hard, don't you?
I do.
You work many different jobs.
I do.
You try to be a good citizen.
I do.
You are not looking for attention.
I am not.
It was brought to you.
It was brought to me.
You wish you never had that attention, don't you?
Yes.
Because you just want to live your life the way you want to live it rather than have people you don't know attacking, criticizing, or intimidating you.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Could you repeat that, please?
So would it be fair to say that you simply want to live your life the way you've been living it without outside people attacking or pressuring or threatening you?
Yes.
On June 15, 2023, you were contacted by the defense private investigator, weren't you? And you may not know the dates. Were you contacted twice by the private investigator?
I would need to know what time frame we're looking at.
Fair enough. By the way, the the blogger that I speak of, do you know if he is friendly or supports one side over the other?
I know he is friendly towards one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
I would say the defense team.
You've interacted with a private investigator hired by the defense?
Yes.
Have you also interacted with any of the attorneys?
Yes.
Which attorneys have you interacted with?
Mr. Yannetti.
Have you contacted or have you spoken to any other attorneys other than Mr. Yannetti?
Just Mr. Yannetti.
How many times have you spoken to Mr. Yannetti?
Again, what are we talking? First trial, this trial?
The entire time, from that night until today. Can you remember how many times that you've spoken?
About 5 times.
How many times have you gone in to be interviewed by him?
4 times?
During those interviews, were they spaced out over the course of this case?
Yes.
What was the purpose of those interviews?
To go over my testimony.
When you went over testimony, were you ever shown prior testimony?
Yes.
Were you shown prior reports?
No.
Were you shown a prior investigator's report?
Yes.
Were you shown a prior report by a law enforcement agency that is not the state police and not Canton?
Not by Mr. Yannetti. I saw that first document for the first time during the first trial.
When you were discussing your testimony, was there a discussion about the fact that the times that you gave the private investigator were different than the report from that law enforcement agency?
Could you repeat that question, please?
When you were preparing the trial in those meetings, was it brought up, did you discuss that there was a difference in your memory, or at least in the reports, between what you told the defense private investigator and what you told that other law enforcement agency?
No.
Were you aware that there was a difference between the different statements attributing your memory as to time?
The first trial, yes.
When you were with the defense preparing for trial, did you go over your testimony?
Yes.
Did you go over questions and answers?
Yes.
Were you ever subjected to a make-pretend cross-examination about issues that were important in this case?
No.
Were you ever pointed to any particular issues that were important to talk about in this case?
No.
When you did the questions and answers, were they written down or just a conversation?
So, can you repeat that one, please? I'm sorry.
When you went through the questions and answers in preparing, practicing for your testimony, were they written down?
So ask it differently.
When you were preparing for your testimony, were the questions and answers written down, or was it just speaking?
Just speaking.
Those 4 times that you met, is that a guess, or was it 4 times?
It was about 4 times, yes.
Could it have been more?
No.
And during those 4 times, was there anything different other than going through questions and answers about testimony and preparation? Was there any other subjects you talked about?
There were none.
Did you ever receive any compensation, sir?
I received none.
Do you know whether people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive?
No.
You don't know?
I never received anything.
Were you given anything to bring home with you so that you could remember past testimony or some of the questions and answers that were going to be asked?
No.
How long were your meetings in preparation for your testimony?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
Were they all about the same time, or were they different?
Correct.
When you came into court last year, it's fair to say this is after you became aware of essentially being targeted, correct?
He can answer that if he can. Can you answer that, Mr. Lockwood?
I can. I don't ever felt like I was being targeted.
This was after you received all the information from your friends and people in the community that you were being attacked.
I'll allow that.
Again, I don't feel like I was being targeted.
Are you concerned after this case what happens with the blogger that you follow?
No.
You talked about your meeting with the private investigator. The first time you met him, do you remember that meeting?
Yes.
Do you remember where you met him?
I met him at my place of employment.
Did you go anywhere with him that day?
No, I did not.
You had a conversation with him and you spoke about what you had remembered from that night?
Yes.
Do you remember when you spoke to that private investigator, you weren't sure how many times you went up and down Fairview that night? That you had said 2 or 3?
No, I told him I went up at 2:30 at 2. I told him at 3:30 I went up 2. Went up and down. And I told him about 3 hours later I went up and down. Excuse me, I went down and wasn't able to go around the police cruisers and had to turn around at Carriage Lane.
Okay. You mentioned that you believe you told the private investigator that you went up and down at 2:30. Do you remember when you spoke to the private investigator you actually said 3 o'clock?
I don't remember the 3 o'clock.
May I approach?
Yes.
And before I do you remember you said that when you went on your second pass, it was around 3:15?
I told him I went up Fairview between about 2:40 to 2:45, and I said about 45 minutes later I went for the second time.
Okay. Now you had said 2:30, and you just now said 2:40 to 2:45, and then you said 45 minutes later.
Yep.
Okay. Do you remember telling the private investigator that when you think, or you said you saw a Ford Edge, you were actually still on Cedar Brook, not on Fairview passing by it, but you saw it from the street at Cedar Brook? Do you remember telling him that?
I don't remember.
Crest.
Secret. I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
I'll show you a copy. This is a report that you didn't write, so I don't want you to read it. I want to show it to you and see if it helps remind you of what you told the private investigator that day. You can look at any part of this, but what I'm asking you is whether or not you remember telling the private investigator that when you saw the car, you weren't passing on Fairview, you were up on Cedar Crest. That's the question I'm asking. So I'd ask you to look at whatever part you want, but I'm going to point out a part to you. When you're done, don't answer, just look up, and then I'll get to ask you some questions about your memory, okay?
Okay.
And so I've directed to this part, but you can look at any part that you want, sir. Are you done, sir?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, do you now remember when you were speaking to the defense investigator about seeing a car. You said that about 3:30 to 4 a.m. when you were plowing Cedar Crest Road, you looked toward Fairview Road and saw a small SUV parked in front of the house. Remember telling the PI that?
I never remember telling him that.
When you spoke to law enforcement, not the Canton police or the state police, you understood it was important to be as accurate as possible?
Yes.
And you understood, at least with that law enforcement agency, if you misled them in any way, it could be up to a 10-year penalty?
Yes.
When you spoke to them, did you take that interview very seriously?
Yes.
Try to be as precise and accurate as you could?
Yes.
And when you spoke to them, obviously, like anybody, you had in mind that there could be serious consequences if they felt misled.
Yes.
You try to be honest with them?
Yes.
Provide them your best memory in good faith?
Yes.
And this was shortly before, well, actually, this was May 24th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
When you met, there was more than one person there from this agency?
I believe so.
Was there potentially two?
There was two.
And when you met with them, they asked you about when you began working that night.
Yes.
You told them 11:30 to midnight.
I never told them that.
And so as you sit here today, your memory is you did not tell those law enforcement agents that you began work at 11:30 to 12?
We had a 2:30 start time.
I understand, but I'm asking you,
I never told them. It was always 2:30 start time.
when you spoke to them, do you remember telling them the first time you were out near the area was midnight?
Nope. No.
When you spoke to those law enforcement personnel, were they taking notes?
I believe so.
Have you ever seen their report?
The first trial I did, yes.
Who showed you that report?
It was shown to me by Prosecutor Lally.
You think Prosecutor Lally showed you that report?
It was shown to me.
And do you remember telling those two law enforcement personnel that you believe that there were emergency vehicles, ambulances, or police cars in front of Fairview at 3 to 3:30 a.m.?
I do not.
Are you saying that you did not say these things to them, or are you saying that that's not your memory?
That's not what I said.
And so you're saying that's wrong. You're denying
Correct.
you made those statements.
Correct.
At the time they say that you told them there was emergency vehicles there at 3 a.m., that is the same time that you told the PI that you saw the Ford Edge around 3:30 to 4, correct?
About 3:30 is when I saw the Ford Edge.
It was dark out that night, wasn't it?
Correct.
There are no street lights down near that flagpole area of 34 Fairview, is there?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Was it on that night?
I can't tell you honestly if it was.
You testified at trial? I'm sorry, at a proceeding last year?
I testified that there were. It was asked to me that there were not any streetlights, and I answered it in the affirmative way. And living in that neighborhood, I saw that there were actual streetlights.
You testified at a proceeding last year, didn't you?
Yes.
When you testified at the proceeding, did you meet anybody from the defense close in time to that proceeding?
I don't know, when we met, how close to the proceedings it was.
Do you remember being prepared before you went into trial last time?
Yes.
By
Yannetti, excuse me.
Okay. Do you remember telling the defense private investigator that you made your final pass at 6:30 a.m.?
I remember I told him it was about 3 hours going down Cedar Crest and was not able to go to the end of Fairview due to the first responders.
At trial last year, do you remember saying it was 5:30?
I did.
And today you had said about 6:15.
Yes.
Okay. You weren't timing anything on a watch for times, were you?
I was not.
You were not accounting in any way for time whatsoever when you were out that night, were you?
No, I was not.
When you're providing times, are you trying to use your best memory?
Yes.
Do you recognize that you have a differing memory on times of what you did that night?
No.
You talked about your view from the tow truck and that you have a bunch of lights on it. On the tow truck, you had mentioned that your vision to the side was 5 to 6 feet.
Can you rephrase that, please?
Yes, of course. You said when you were driving your tow truck, you could see forward and sideways.
Okay. I don't want to be... I don't drive a tow truck.
My apologies. My apologies. Your snowplow.
Thank you.
You said you can see forward and sideways.
I can see forward, I can see diagonal, and I can see right to left.
When you look right to left, you said you could see about 5 feet.
Correct.
Do the lighting conditions affect how well you can see?
No.
Does the weather?
Yes.
When you're plowing, are you ever looking at the street in front of you?
Yes.
Are you looking at people's front yards?
Yes.
And so, what did you see as far as the front door of the Albert House that night? Was it open or closed?
It was closed.
With lights on?
I can't answer that for sure. I don't remember if there were lights on.
How about the neighbors on the left? Were you looking at their front lawn?
Yes.
Did you see if their lights were on?
Again, I didn't recognize if their lights were on.
Do you look at every neighbor's front lawn up to the door as you're driving in the snow plowing?
I look to the right and to the left, and my eyes will graze to the yard. Yes, I will look there.
You were saying you have a specific memory of looking at the Albert front yard all the way to the door. Do you have a specific memory of looking at the other neighbors' yards to their door?
Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, you said that you looked at the Albert House all the way to the door.
Correct.
Do you have a memory of looking at any other houses all the way to the door?
Yes.
Okay. Which house had a dumpster in front of it?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to a dumpster. Dumpster wouldn't be in the front yard.
Are you sure on your route there was no dumpsters in anybody's front yard?
I can tell you there was a dumpster this week.
No. I'm more interested in January 29, 2020.
I can't answer to that. I don't remember.
A dumpster, a 15 by 20 foot dumpster, that would be bigger than a man's body, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be.
And so you have no really specific memory of the other homes in the neighborhood that night?
I mean, I looked. I saw. I didn't see a dumpster. That would have definitely stuck out.
Okay. You said you had vision as far as your eyes could see.
Correct.
What does that mean?
It means if there were, my eyes were, as long as they're open, I can see as far as they will let me see.
Is that dependent on lighting conditions, darkness, snow?
Correct.
That night, did you have any difficulty paying attention or driving?
I did not.
Did you have a small accident that night?
I did.
Okay, what did you hit?
I hit a portable basketball net.
Was that part because of the weather conditions? You didn't have a good opportunity to see it?
No. I definitely saw it and just did not judge enough.
You said that you went up and down the road a couple of times. When you were asked to describe the car that you said you saw, When you first spoke to the defendant's private investigator, you didn't give any detail about the type of car, did you?
I told her it was a Ford Edge.
When you first spoke to the investigator, you used the words Ford Edge?
I did.
Did they bring you to a parking lot at some point?
They did.
And when they brought you to a parking lot, did they have you go out in the parking lot and look at a Ford Edge?
They did.
And when they had you go out and look at the Ford Edge, did they have you identify that as the type of car?
Yes, they did.
And when you did that, how many cars were in the parking lot?
We had a hockey game, so there were several, at least 100, 150.
Who pointed you to the Ford Edge?
I pointed to it.
Did the investigator take you to the Ford Edge?
No, he did not.
It was just an open parking lot, and he asked you to look around to see if there happened to be a similar car?
No, I told him a Ford Edge. He wanted to make sure I knew what a Ford Edge looked like. I pointed to the Ford Edge, and he was satisfied.
So after you said a Ford Edge, he brought you to a parking lot to point out a car?
We were at my place of business. We just walked out the door.
Where was that?
At the Metropolis ice rink.
The rink?
Ice rink, yes.
Did you then meet the investigator later on at a school?
Yes, I did.
And who did you meet at the school?
I met Paul again.
And what was the purpose of that?
He wanted to go through my route.
You want to go through your route?
Correct.
And then, did you choose to meet at the school?
I did.
You did?
I did.
And why did you choose the school?
It was an easier landmark for the gentleman to get to, and it was minutes from my route.
Did you know that former Trooper Proctor's sister worked there?
I had no idea.
You said last year that when you went by Fairview, did you say that you would buy your final pass at 5:30 a.m.?
No.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Sir, when you have contact, you also wear reading glasses?
Yes. I can't read things up close.
Understood. This is trial testimony, testimony from June 21st, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And you were asked do you recall what time it was that you wound up back on Fairview? You said, I don't honestly recall what specific time. Yes?
Yes.
And then you were asked, sure. Approximately, if it was 3:15 to 3:30, that second time, what would be your best estimate of the time when you came back? And what did you say?
Say about 5:30.
And so even last year, you were having some difficulty remembering the times, right?
Objection.
System.
Were you having difficulty last year remembering the times that you were on Fairview?
No.
When you said you were on Fairview last year at 5:30, you didn't see anything on the Albert front lawn at 5:30 a.m.?
I wasn't on Fairview at 5:30 a.m.
Okay. Were you asked last year about your travels on Fairview?
Yes.
Okay. When you asked about, do you recall, was the time you wound up on Fairview, and you said you didn't remember. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
And is that true testimony?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you had some difficulties in your memory of when you were on Fairview when you testified last year. Isn't that fair to say?
No, it's not fair.
And then you were asked approximately if it was 3:15 to 3:30 the second time, what time did you come back?
And I said, if I were to guess, I said 45 minutes later.
Did you say I would say, if I had to say, it would have been 5:30 up Fairview.
That time was incorrect. It was 6:15. I couldn't go down any further due to the police presence.
So your testimony last year, you understandably made a mistake about the time, correct?
I did.
And it's true, isn't it, that you really have somewhat foggy memory about the times.
It is not.
That time of 5:30 is very different than the time you told the agents when you met them, the law enforcement officials that weren't from Canton or the state police. That was very different than when you told them 3 to 3:30.
Very different.
And it's different than the 3:30 to 4 timeline that you gave the defense private investigator the first time you spoke to them. Correct?
Correct.
And it's different than what you told the jury today, that it was 6:15.
It's different, but it's not.
When you plowed that night, did you have any reason to look for somebody who was lying on the side of a yard?
No.
Did you have any expectation somebody would be lying helpless on the side of a yard that night?
No.
If you had seen somebody, certainly you would have helped.
Correct.
When you said that, when the private investigator asked you where you were when you said you saw the Ford Edge, are you saying that you didn't tell the private investigator that you were on Cedar?
I don't remember telling him I was on Cedar Crest. I do remember telling him that I had turned onto Fairview and saw the vehicle.
Cedar Crest in a storm at night is quite a distance from the flagpole at Fairview, isn't it?
No.
About 300 feet?
Roughly.
Difficult to see under those conditions?
No.
Could we have Exhibit 71, Stream 0, at about 6:17 a.m., please?
Okay.
Could you stop it there? Do you see that street light?
I do.
Okay. At the end of that road, past the street light, is Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
Is that a fair depiction of the elements that night around that time?
Yes.
And in this case, there's further illumination with the car that's facing us?
Correct.
That wasn't there, was it?
Correct.
You said after you saw law enforcement, did you come down Fairview after you saw law enforcement?
I was on Fairview already when I saw the law enforcement.
Did you drive by Cedar Crest again to go back and forth and watch what was going on, or did you go on your route?
I went on my route, which included Cedar Crest.
Did you keep driving by because you wanted to watch, or did you just leave and do your regular route?
I went and did my regular route.
Could I have 6:19:27, please? And could you play it? If you could back up a little before 6:19:27. Is that weather consistent with what it looked like to you?
Yes.
Is that you there?
I don't know if that's me. Yes, that's me. That is me.
Could we go to 6:32:45, please? Is that you again?
That one, I can't tell if that was me again.
Could we go to 6:35:14, please? Was that you?
I don't see it. I don't see the truck. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Could we go back to 6:35:12?
That looks like to be a pickup truck. That does not look like my truck.
6:37:45, please. And that's you again, right?
Again, I can't tell you for sure if that was me.
Those were not your red and orange lights consistent with the earlier ones that went by?
What I saw the first time was the reflecting tape off the body of my truck.
Could we go to
I have
7?
a plow guy that is a contractor that we work tandem together.
And was he out there that night as well, going by Fairview?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever tell the private investigator about him?
Yes, I did.
7:22, please. Is that you, sir?
I can't say for sure.
7:15:45, please. Do you recognize that plow?
I do not.
7:19:55, please. Was that you, sir?
That was me.
How long does your route take?
It's hard to say. I mean, as long as it's snowing, it can take as long as it takes.
Well, if you're going to do a pass, how long does an entire pass take?
If I were to do from Cedar Crest to the end, it would take probably 10 minutes. If I were to do the entire route, I'm not cleaning up. I'm just giving it a pass so people can get through. Could take about 3 hours. Could take 4 hours.
When you mentioned Brian Albert on your direct examination, had you talked to the defense about Brian Albert in your preparation for testimony?
No.
You knew some of the Albert family?
I know the entire Albert family.
And you know Brian Albert as a police officer?
Yes, I do.
Why is it that 3 times in your direct testimony you characterized him as a first responder?
Because he's a police officer. They're first responders.
Did anybody ever suggest to you to use the terms or the phrases first responder when you were describing Brian Albert?
No one did. Those are my words.
Since your trial testimony last year, have you received any more focusing or targeting of harassment?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Brown.
Since last year when you testified, have you received any recent aggression towards you for testifying?
No.
Have you had any further focus or problems?
No.
Objection. I move to start further objection.
I'll strike that.
I have no further questions.
Very briefly, sir. You were asked by Mr. Brennan about whether you saw a dumpster that night. Do you recall that line of questioning?
I do.
In the aftermath of January 29th of 2022, was a dumpster all over the news for the next 3.5 years?
Not that I'm aware of.
You were asked about going through your route with the defense investigator and giving a statement to the defense investigator.
Yes.
How soon after January 29th of 2022 was that?
2 weeks.
Were the events fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
Finally, actually not finally, I've got 2 more points, but they're both brief. You had mentioned that night you actually misjudged and hit a net.
Yes.
Can you describe the basketball apparatus that, and I'm going to ask you what part of it you hit, but describe what that looks like.
It's got a base with wheels on it. It's portable, so you can move it in and out. And it's got the basketball frame, and it's got the backboard and then rim.
Okay. So this is not a pole that was cemented into the ground.
Correct.
But perhaps we're all familiar with it, the black base that maybe you put sandbags on,
Correct.
that type of thing to keep it in place, but it does have wheels?
Correct.
All right. And you mentioned the net. The net is the rope netting that comes down, correct?
Correct.
There's also a hoop that keeps the net in place?
Yes.
And the pole?
Correct.
And the base?
Correct.
Of all those things, what part did your Franken truck actually catch?
It caught the net in the little bit part of the frame, of the frame where the net was.
Something that you saw from the beginning, you just misjudged the distance.
Correct.
Now, finally, with regard to the 5:30 testimony that you gave last year,
Yes.
did you also testify that the last pass that you tried to make when the police were blocking the scene was about 3 hours after that 3:30 second up and down?
Yes.
So why is it last year that you testified that it was 3 hours late?
You were watching live right there a trial from Dedham, Massachusetts in the Karen Reed retrial, the witness on the stand since this morning. We are going to let Charlotte today pick it up from here on WCNC Plus, but we will also await a press conference that we are